and about the Badami cave structures. I would like to concentrate more on the indigenous texts and their influence on these architectural members. Badami Chalukyan era was the period where both kinds of temples, that is rock-cut sanctuaries as well as structural temples, coexisted. The early archaeologists and Western scholars have called Badami Chalukyan era as the dawn of South Indian architecture. So where both rock-cut sanctuaries and structural temples coexisted. As I was studying, some of the Western scholars have commented the Badami Chalukyan art and architecture as the dawn of South Indian architecture. According to them, the temple building activity started from the period of Badami Chalukyan. But we have a lot of references that there were forms of temples existing even quite earlier than the Badami Chalukyan period through inscriptions, and there are some ruins and dilapidated structures are also available. So here we can make a small change that it was not just the dawn of architecture, but the usage of the stone as a medium to construct temple probably increased during the Badami Chalukyan era. Because even earlier to that, stone was used, but probably the Madhyama was mixed. We call it as Mishra Madhyama, or the medium mixture of mortar, wood, brick, and other things. So naturally, after they don't stand stable for a longer period, and they might have ruined. So here, again there are other opinions regarding the texts on temple architecture called as the Vastu Granthas. Mainly temples are constructed either based on Vastu Granthas or the Agamas. Agamas only, the Kriya Vaga deals with the structural part, rest other is the activities done in the temple. So Vastu Granthas are the texts which majorly deal with the construction of a temple. Again, there was another question, because Vastu Granthas like Mayamata and other texts, Mayamata, Manasara, Yahavakasha, Shilpa, Shilparatna and Miri, these texts usually deal with structural aspects, that is from laying the foundation and others. But when we are discussing cave temples, was there any textual background for this? Are there any textual definitions for the construction of cave temples? There is one Grantha by the name Vishwakarma Vastu Vidya which talks about constructing a cave structure. So it mentions that the aspects which have to be adopted is same as what we do to the structural temples, and only thing is before the installation of the main deity, in that spot you have to dig and place all the religious things in which structural case we do it at the very beginning of the construction. So this Vishwakarma Vastu Vidya mentions about how cave structures are built. And there are other texts as I mentioned. In these cave structures of Badami, we can also quote examples which are mentioned in other Vastu Shastra texts. I would really like to concentrate because usual description of the temple or cave temples is available. I mean, say the length and breadth of the cave structure or what we have and other things. But analyzing them a little based on indigenous texts and also the sculptures, we need to know some scriptural background of this. So I will mainly explain on that basis. So this is the picture of the first cave of Badami. This is the first cave, and this is considered to be the earliest. And as usual, we do not know the exact date of the consecration of this cave. But the third cave, which is very renowned and which is very detailedly built, which is very ornate, that is a dated cave. So it is 500 Shaka era, so that is 578 AD. So naturally this cave must have been built prior at least by a century or 50 years or so. So this is the earliest of the temple, the cave structures there. This is a Shaiva sanctuary dedicated to Shiva. Here on the right side there is a small Varandika cutout of the place. It's a very small eye. There on the rear wall you have the sculpture of Ganapati. Here also you see Ganapati is depicted only with two hands without any crown. This shows a bit the archaic features of Ganapati. In some of the scriptures like Tantra Samuchaya, they mention that Vibhuja Ganapati was the form of Ganapati prayed in Krita Yuga. So that was the Yuga where Ganapati was prayed only with two hands. So this indicates the antiquity of this sculpture, that a Ganapati with two hands is very old. And as this temple it goes back to 4th century or so, we find that the archaic features of Ganapati can be seen here. So this is the Mahishwamardhini, which is carved next to Ganapati. Another aspect we have to note here is, in the ritualistic part of temple prayers, we find there are some of the devatas who are prayed in the second strata, and they are believed to be the removers of the obstacles. In that, we usually pray them as Dwaradevatas. It is Ganapati, Durga, Kshetrapala, Bhairava, and there is one Ananta. These 5 deities are usually considered as the semi-gods who are supposed to remove the obstacles. Here we can see the same system is followed, and we have this sculpture of Mahishwamardhini. Another feature of this Mahishwamardhini is that in the sculpture, in the depiction of sculptures of Mahishwamardhini, there are 2 varieties. One is considered as the Pallava Dravida style, and the other one is the Karnataka Dravida style. In the Pallava Mahishwamardhini sculptures, we find that Mahishwamardhini is shown as riding over a lion, and she is aiming at Mahisha with a bow and arrow. This depiction can be seen in the Sheshayi cave of Mamallapuram, and we have many other examples also. But in the Karnataka Dravida idiom, we find that she stamps the bull and she pierces it with the trident. Sometimes she is shown as holding the tail of the buffalo, and many times Asura is also depicted as coming out of the buffalo's body. Surprisingly, both the descriptions followed by the Karnataka idiom or the Pallava idiom is found detailedly explained in the Devi Mahatmyam or Devi Bhagavad Purana, which deals with the Vada of Mahishasura. So description is very close to there, because it mentions very clearly the Asura comes out. Ardhanishkaranta evasi yuddhamanyo mahasura. So he is depicted as coming out of the buffalo's body half, and even then he fights with the Devi. So this becomes the Karnataka idiom, and the other is the Pallava idiom. And later days, the Pallavas started adopting the Vishnu Durga, which was continued by the Cholas, about which I will not talk now because it may be a bit confusing. So this is the earliest reference of the Karnataka idiom of Mahishwamardhini. You have Skanda, who is again considered as a Kshetrapala. This is the famous Nataraja sculpture carved on the wall of the first cave. This is a closer view. And This is probably the earliest Nataraja sculpture on stone found in South India. It's one of the very earliest stone sculptures representing Nataraja. Here, Nataraja has 9 hands on each side, counting to 18 hands. And if you see, only the left hand is shown with some ayuda, some weapons. Rest of them are disposed in various mudras. So here, some scholars who are proficient in dance, Bharatanatyam, they say that if you study them on permutation and combination method, we get almost 81 mudras which are shown in the Bharatanatyam Shastra. That is one right hand and the other left hand, when they are combined together, you get 81 mudras depicted. You can see only 3 or 4 weapons are being shown. Rest of them are disposed in various mudras. Here in the Parivara of Nataraja, again Ganapati is depicted. Why I am showing this is to stress on the point. Here also Ganesha is shown without a crown and just two-handed, a stout figure. So he was still a Ganadevata here and one of the Shiva's Parivara Devata. This is the sculpture of Haryardhamurti or Harihara, which is found on the left wall of the cave in its front porch. Here, the uniqueness of this sculpture is usually any sculpture is sculpted in three forms. One is Uttama, Madhyama and Adhama. Adhama sculptures are usually shown without any parivaras or without the consorts or anything like that. Madhyama are shown with the consorts and Uttama are shown with all their royal host and other things. So this usually we find the Haryardhamurti or any sculpture of the various forms of Shiva which are depicted in the koshtas only in the Adhama Varga, that is, he is shown in single. But in Badami first cave, we see it is Madhyama Murti and again it can be classified as Bhogamurti because here Haryardha is the combination of Shiva and Vishnu together. So here we see that the right half of the sculpture is Shiva, Hara, and the left half is Vishnu. And to the side of Vishnu, we can see Lakshmi is carved. To the right, it is Girija or Parvati carved. In between, we can also see, is it clearly visible? This part, we can see Garuda standing. The Vahana, Garuda is standing. And this side we have Nandi. So they are shown with their consorts as well as the Vahanas. So this falls under the Madhyama Bhogamurti Varga of Haryardhamurti, which is a bit rare. And again, the Haryardha usually depicts, it's almost same as the Ardhanarishwara. In Ardhanarishwara, it is Narayani. Here it is Narayana. So this shows the conjugation of the fierce aspect with the aspect of coolness that tends to protect the creation. So that is the significance of the Haryardhamurti. This is Veenadhara Shiva. Some people get confused to this as Ardhanarishwara, but it is Veenadhara Shiva. Here again, Shiva is shown with this Parivara. So this is again, it is Madhyama Bhogamurti, where he is shown with Uma on his left. We find Nandi to his right. You have Bringi, I think it is visible. And he holds a veena here. It is actually broken. The sculpture is a bit damaged and you see that the veena is broken. So the speciality of holding veena depicts two things. Because everybody, there is a question, why is Shiva holding a veena? Because we associate veena with performing arts and usually to the modern generation, we associate veena more with Saraswati. So but here we have this Veenadharamurti. Veena actually not only depicts performing arts or music, but it has three other aspects, which is Nada. Nada is basically the form of Pranava Lankara. Then we have Veena depicts the human body. It is the human Sharia is depicted as Veena because Veena has 24 Vedas and the human being has 24 tattvas in his body. So Ishvara is supposed to, he controls the human body and mind with all these Chaturvimshati tattvas. Again, Veena is also the symbolic representation of Gayatri with 24 syllables. So these things are recorded in a Grantha called as Veena Gayatri Rahasya, which compares the human body with the Veena, and that Veena is held by the Supreme Lord who is supposed to create our body and he controls our activities. Now, these are the Dwarapalaka sculptures we find in the first cave. So, usually the uniqueness of these Dwarapalakas are, both the Dwarapalakas here, they have a very serene look on their face. Because usually in other later representation of the Dwarapalakas, they have a fierce look in their face. They are shown with canine teeth and like broad eyes, widened eyes, and raised eyebrows and all these aspects. Usually they show that the Dwarapalakas are a bit terrific, so they are supposed to guard the temple from evil powers and such concepts. But here, both the Dwarapalakas are shown in a very serene mode. So this usually depicts that the installed linga or the environment there was more arsha, based on the Rishi way of prayers. So it was more a place of tapas than just materialistic puja, because arsha lingas were popularly prayed during that period. I would just like to introduce little aspects of the architecture of the cave structures here. As I was telling that the Vastu texts mention various varieties of pillars and plinths and various corbels and other things. But here I will just very little introduction I want to give because I cannot deal it in great detail. So usually a four-faced pillar is called as Brahmakanta pillar in the texts, and we can see the example of Brahmakanta pillars here. And structural temples are supposed to have supporting pillars called as the Bhadraka in between the walls. But here, though it is a cave structure and all these pillars are not really utilitarian in purpose and they are more decorative, because for a cave structure so many pillars are not essential. It stands on the strong rock by itself. But still, to give the look of a temple, structural temple, here you can see this is the inner sanctum part. So again we can see it is based on the textual representation of the Dwara Shakas. There are some door jambs have some vertical bands, usually called as the Dwara Shakas. This is one kind of Bhadraka Stamba, and we can see that it is the Palika Stamba variety. Here itself, so why I am mentioning this is, there were examples for such architectural members found even in the earliest cave structure. So this means to say there was some principle based on which these structures were built. So this is the Palika Stamba variety of Bhadraka Stamba. Coming to the other sculpture, here we can see Uma Maheshwara riding on a Nandi. This is just a Kosha Bimba which is carved on top of the wall. This is called as Shilpa Chaturya. Probably this is the earliest reference we can find, because the later people have exploited this to a very great extent. We can see that even during the Vijayanagara period, this was used. This is the sculpture of a Gajadhenu. If you close one part, it becomes elephant, and if the other part is closed, it becomes buffalo. So it is called as the Gajadhenu sculpture, and this shows the Chaturya is just the intelligence of the sculptor. So this is the Shilpa Chaturya, one of the earliest examples we find in South India. Now coming to the second cave structure. The second and third cave structures in Badami, they belong to the Vaishnava pantheon, both of them. And again, this structure is also not dated, but based on the date of the next structure, we can again conclude that this was slightly earlier to the next one. Now, this facade clearly shows that the Trivarga of a structural temple, what we call, because structural temples are built on the principle of Shadvargas. Trivargas, that is the Adhisthana part here, then we get the Bitti or the wall part here, and the topmost one is the Prastara. Prastara is that which covers the entire structure. So we can see that it is also depicted here. The kapota of the Prastara is depicted here. And the interior, you have all the aspects of a structural temple. And this is an Adhisthana on which the temple is built. This temple has two major sculptures. One is the Trivikrama sculpture and the other one is of Bhuvaraha. This Trivikrama sculpture, you have a more impressive sculpture in the third cave. So I would explain it in detail while describing that cave. But there are few uniqueness. That is, this sculpture is more clear than the third one because that has faced more damage than this one. Here you can see that the episode of Bali giving the offering to Vamana is shown here, and Bali's wife is shown here, and Shukra is standing behind. Here we have this depiction which is not very popularly found of Namuchi. Namuchi is the son of Bali. When Trivikrama suddenly assumes a form which is in a great multitude, then Namuchi stops him because he wants to question him that it is being unfair. You asked 3 steps based on your previous height and you cannot now measure that in some other height. So he tries to stop him from growing, and this sculpture depicts that. Because you can see there is another figure pointing at that he is growing at a great magnitude in this part, and here he is holding it. This is the Bhuvaraha sculpture. Again, as I was mentioning, all these are carved based on proper Shastra Granthas like Vaikhana Sadhana or Uttarakankarma, which deal with these cultural aspects. See here, Bhuvaraha is shown as standing on the Vasiki Sarpa, which denotes the Samudra or the ocean from which he lifts the goddess. And here the Ayudhas are represented both in the form of a demigod as well as the form of Ayudha. And texts also mention that Varaha should be represented as sniffing the goddess Bhudevi. He should be shown as sniffing Bhudevi, lifting her. Either he should be sniffing her face or sniffing her bosom. So here we can see that Bhudevi is being lifted and he is also sniffing the goddess, and she holds the Damshtra for the support. Now these are some designs which are carved in the ceiling of the second cave. My purpose of showing these two figures are, though as I said, in cave temples many of the aspects they become more decorative and less utilitarian. These, though they seem like designs, they are actually the forms of Jalavatayanas or perforated windows which are mentioned in various texts that are to be fixed on the walls of the temple. Because we find similar examples in same Badami, Pattarkal and Ayurveda temples. This is a figure of Matsya Yantra Jalavatayana which can be seen in Durga temple. And you have, this is a combination of Swastika and Nandyavarta Jalavatayana. Swastika, if it is inverted, it becomes Nandyavarta. So, now this is a design found in the ceiling of the second cave, and this is just the structural evidence from Pattarkal. I am just showing it as an example. So the same what you see on the ceiling, the Swastika Jala design, you can see it in the structure. This is the most important of the 4 caves, which has many special features, and it is a dated rock cut structure. This was probably begun during the reign of Kirtivarma II, but Mangalesha completes it, and Mangalesha was an ardent devotee of Vishnu and he calls himself as Parama Bhagavata. And he mentions that this Vishnu Griha was constructed for the Paroksha Vinaya of his brother. He is very humble here, he is very humane. He says that he builds this, he gets this Vishnu Griha done for the Paroksha Vinaya of his brother Kirtivarma. So that shows that Kirtivarma had always, and by then it was no more, and Mangalesha does this. And here, almost all the aspects of a structural temple, like a spacious courtyard, you have an entrance dwara here, a Mahadwara from which you can climb over these steps and you enter. You have a quite a spacious courtyard with a prakara wall built on the opposite side. And then we have the stairs which lead to the first porch. Then here again he has followed the system of having a Chandrashila or Ashtopada in the beginning, and then he has few steps, and this also has a Pakshashila on the either sides. See, this is another view. Now, as I was telling, this cave has it's bigger in size than the other 2 previous one, and also the succeeding 4th one. So naturally, because of its size also, the numbers of pillars and the depictions have increased here. Here the speciality is again, in the previous caves there was only one eye of the porch, and it had only 4 or 5 pillars according to the necessity. Now here we feel it's a long porch, like a corridor, and the first one and the facade is all Brahmakanta Stambhas with just 4 faces. But in the second row, we can see we have a 16-faced pillar, which is usually called as Somyakanta, Chandrakanta in Shastra Granthas. So 16, Chandra has 16 columns, so a 16-faced pillar is called as Chandrakanta. Then we have this pillar, the second one which you can see here. It is a Vardhamana Stambha because the plan of the pillar projects in twice or thrice according to the required measurement. So here it's the same, the long one. Here we can see the Mahavishnu on one side and Narasimha on the other side. So this is the Somyakanta pillar and the Vardhamana one behind it. It's a closer view. So this is the second eye of the cave structure. So from here onwards, the concept of a Gouda Mantapa or assembly hall is very clear. See, you can see that this serves as you can go all around here, and it has an elevated platform in the center. So this elevated platform is usually built in a Gouda Mantapa or the Navaranga of any temple. This is the central way of the temple with leading steps to the sanctum. This is the door jamb of the sanctum. Again we have Dwarashakas and other aspects. Now coming to the sculptures. Sculptures depicted in this cave are also very unique and special by themselves. This is popularly called as the sculpture of Vaikuntha Narayana. But the nearest sculptural identity of this we can find in the text is of Adi Madhava, to show the archaic form of Vishnu as the earliest. Because here the Lord is shown as seated in Utputikasana, that is, he folds one knee and the another knee is placed, and he wields the Shankha and Chakra, and as it is an earlier sculpture, this is shown in the Praharana form, because earlier sculptures, the wielding of weapons were very natural. They were not shown in an artificial form as fixed between the fingers of the sculpture or something. They were shown as held by both the hands, and sometimes the chakra was shown as being prepared to be thrown. So it is called as the Praharana mode. So it is shown depicted in the Praharana mode, and he is also seated on the serpent throne. So Adimadhava is shown to be seated on his Adisheshaya. Only difference is in his right hand he holds a Bijapura, which is like a Madhulanga. Some scholars say it is the earliest form of maize or corn which existed in India, but it appears more to be like a Bijapura or a Madhulanga, which is usually placed in the hands of the Devata Murtis. Here we can also see his Vahana Garuda is seated here, and Adimadhava is usually depicted without his consort or anybody. It is just to show that the earliest person in the creation. This is a depiction of Narasimha. Here, as I was mentioning, in the earlier temples, say in the period of Pallavas and Badami Chalukyas, the weapons were not only depicted in their usual forms, but also they were depicted in human forms. So here we can see that Narasimha, the weapons of Narasimha are almost same as what Vishnu holds. It is only that he used his claws for devouring the Hiranyakashipu. Otherwise, his weapons shown are Shankha, Chakra, Gada and Kaumodaki, Padma and so on. So here, and this form of Narasimha depicted here is called as Kevala Narasimha. Kevala Narasimha is that form where Narasimha is depicted alone, many times with only two shoulders, and this is probably the earlier form of Yoga Narasimha. And here he doesn't wear a crown, but he is shown with Jatamata. It's only matted locks which he has and curls falling over his shoulders. So this form is of Kevala Narasimha. But these two pictures I am just showing to highlight the sculptor's talent, intelligence and knowledge of those days. Because we always feel, at least in the modern generation, that if a person works on masonry or some such things, he will not be well read or he will not be well informed or like that. But in those days, the sculptors were very well acquainted with various forms of Shastra, beginning from Vedas, Vedic literature to the Bharata Shastra or Dhanurveda or any such forms of knowledge. Because each and everything has been expressed in their sculptures. Here, usually the sculptures have to be carved with Mahapurusha Lakshanas. So, the description of these Mahapurusha Lakshanas is usually found in the Alankara Shastra or the Samtrika Lakshana Shastra. So, according to Samtrika Lakshana Shastra or Alankara Shastra, they have sculpted the Mahapurusha